Korea is currently hosting a conference that has brought together the heads of Korean associations from dozens of countries across the world. On this edition of Issues and Insiders, we speak with two of this year's participants for their thoughts on the importance of such gatherings and their broader networks. Hello and welcome to this final edition of Issues and Insiders. It's Friday, October 4th here in South Korea. I'm Sunhee. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with the heads of the Korean Association in Calgary, Canada, and the one in Marva over in the US, respectively. I have Jinyoung Choi, that is here in the studio. Mr. Choi, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I also have Sungho Lee with us. Mr. Lee, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Good to see you.
Right, Mr. Lee, let's start with some information about the conference itself, including its agenda as well as its efforts to advance the network of Koreans abroad.
First of all, it is an honor to meet such a wonderful Korean Association presidents from around the world. The World Korean Conference, which began in 2000, is an event where overseas Korean Association presidents from all over the world participate. And also, it is a place where you can feel the voice of the fields on the policy through the discussions and workshops. This year's theme is Our Proud Korean, and together with the Republic of Korea. Conference aims to build a global Korean network and puts emphasis on advancing the relationship with the Korean government and overseas Korean communities around the world to work together and to promote Korea.
Right. And that being said, Mr. Choi, what do you believe is the importance of this conference and its related efforts?
For me personally, I think the biggest importance would be the fact that, when you live outside of our country, Korea, for a very long time, sometimes we tend to lose our roots and we tend to forget where we come from because we have very busy lives out of country, being foreigner, being an immigrant. So for the government of Korea to invite the presidents from all over the world back to Korea and to join in a conference as magnificent as this, it sort of tells me that we are cared for, that we are not forgotten, and it helps us to remember our roots, for sure.
Indeed. Mr. Lee, this year also marks the 121st anniversary of Korean immigration over to the US. How has the role of Korean associations over in the US perhaps evolved over this time frame?
In the past, we tried hard to promote Korean culture, but now we are very thankful that many show interest in Korean culture. In particular, I'm grateful that with the K-pop culture continuing to grow in each country, our Korean Association has been able to ride that trend and promote Korea even more. I'm very happy to be able to participate in the change of a generation. Thank you.
Right, a change in generation. Mr. Choi, I hear that Calgary's association, well, Korean Association that is, has a large presence, relatively large presence of young members. That being said, what would you say are the interests of the Calgary Korean Association?
I'm actually very glad that you brought that up, just because, indeed, we do have a very younger presence in the Calgary Korean Association. I believe that I am the youngest president in the world currently, and the board of directors that we currently have, we have 15, and our youngest director happens to be 21 years old. She was born in 2004, and she's currently in university. And so for us, of course, we make a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, I would say that we're a bit more daring and a bit more bold when we try new activities, try new events, etc. So for us, our interests, I think, are very similar to other Korean associations all over the world. Number one being the betterment of Koreans that are currently living in Calgary. I would say the second would be to lift up the dignity of the Koreans that are living in Calgary. And I would say the last one would be for us to promote the Korean culture. Because in the end, again, just going back to the roots, we are Koreans. And me being born in Korea, it's important for us to continue to live in those roots and not forget, although I live in Canada.
Right, for sure. This is an impromptu question, Mr. Choi, but what made you run for the presidency of the Korean Association in Calgary?
I think that's a great question. Actually, the previous president before me is actually even younger than me. President Dominic Koo, who is the previous president, is 2 years younger than me, and he served as the Korean president for 4 years. Before then, that's when the generational change happened. And when he first asked me to start volunteering for the Calgary Korean Association, he just said, hey, Hyung, it's okay for us to have fun while we're younger, but we can also do something a bit more important. Why don't we work on this together? And then that's how I got involved with the Calgary Korean Association. I did serve as the vice president under Dominic Koo for 4 years, and here I am. And for us, it was very important for us to sustain what we built up during the presidency of Mr. Koo, and we wanted to continue on that legacy, because if we didn't continue on with that legacy, we felt that everything that we built up so far would crumble. And not to forget, Dominic Koo had reigned as the president during the COVID times, and we were very restricted in what we were able to do. So for us we had so many good ideas. For us to continue on and try these new ideas was very important for us.
Right. Mr. Choi, would you say that the role of Korean associations, that is, in particular regions, perhaps are affected by the traits of the host countries?
Absolutely. So locally speaking, Calgary, Alberta, I would say we are blessed with abundance in resource and lower taxes, and perhaps it's a beautiful place to live in. So I've been told that Calgary was named the 5th best city to live in the entire world. Having said that, we receive a lot of working holiday students, we receive a lot of international students, and we receive just a lot of Koreans in general, but they tend to be younger generation of Koreans. So people in their 20s, people in their 30s, people that are studying and striving for their careers. So for us, it is important to have a more oomph, I would say, with the younger generation, with the 청년들, right? For us to maybe have programs and events that are maybe a bit more catered to this younger generations of Koreans.
Right. What would you say are some of the main responsibilities and roles played by the president of a Korean association overseas?
I think it's very important to gather the Koreans together, make our presence known. So when you are living overseas, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows, but sometimes we get lost in our day-to-day lives. We have bills to pay, we have things to do, we perhaps, need to learn English. And, a Korean association might be just out of your picture, but it's important for the association and the president to make ourselves known to the community that we exist, that we're here to help, and we're here to better your lives and promote our culture.
Right. And Mr. Lee, also on the subject of roles and responsibilities, how big of a role do Korean associations in different countries play in promoting citizen diplomacy for South Korea, do you think?
We play a big role in promoting South Korea, since we are always looking for ways to share Korean culture and the positive experience through our communities. We hold festivals and try to work with other foreign cultures as well.
Right. And what are your thoughts on this? How do Korean associations work to promote citizen diplomacy for the Korean government overseas?
So, citizen diplomacy, I think there's some flexibility to that definition, but I think the most important thing for us would be for us to promote Korean culture and promote or uplift the dignity of Koreans. It's quite important because, even 10, 20 years ago, South Korea was not very well known. Right now, currently, thanks to K-pop, the Korean dramas, the Korean food, Squid Games from Netflix, we are better known now. But 20 years ago, I mean, it's a very common saying, right? When you say that you're from Korea, they ask you, are you from North or South Korea? So it's important for us to have a place for the South Koreans, for us to be known.
Right. Well, some people are saying it's a great time to be Korean at the moment, given the popularity of K-content overseas. Mr. Choi, what can you share with us about the economic ventures promoted by your association?
So I would say the primary organization that we have with regards to economic ventures would be the Overseas Korean Traders Association, also known as OKTA. This is an association that is, all across the world, and it's also very prevalent in Calgary. It's essentially a group of, economic venturists, businessmen that strive to, increase the trade, share the knowledge, share the wealth of knowledge that they have, whether it's locally, whether it's outside of our city, with other people to understand better with regards to what they do. So that would be the biggest thing. In terms of the Calgary Korean Association, most Korean associations, I would say, is a nonprofit organization. So we try our best to stay neutral in this area. But at the same time, if there is anything that we can do to better the lives of Koreans, definitely we'll jump in there and we'll do our best to support whatever we can.
Do you think, going back to our talk about the global popularity of K-content, do you suppose the popularity of K-pop, K-movies and dramas has actually perhaps boosted interest in Korea among Canadians in recent years?
Absolutely. I can tell you a little bit about the event that we do. For example, the Korean Day Festival that we held in Calgary. It was held August 10th and 11th. It ran for 2 days, and it's a showcase of Korean culture with everything that you've just mentioned: K-pop, Korean food, these Korean dramas, etc. We actually had a lot of visitors come and enjoy the Korean culture with us. I would say the main thing was the K-Poppers Festival. So with this huge wave of Korean culture being exposed to our world, we essentially just ride the wave and go with the flow. It's already exposed. People already know about us, so we just showcase that. For example, the K-Poppers Festival is very similar to a show called American Idol or K-Pop Star, where there are 3 judges at the front. Contestants come and perform, whether it's dancing or singing, and then they would be judged, and the winner takes home a grand prize, right? So
what is the prize?
This year it was $7,500 Canadian dollars. So and the interesting thing is, you would imagine that a lot of the Koreans would come join because it's a Korean Day Festival. But every year we see an increased number of non-Koreans that come to join our festival. For example, this year, I believe the winner of the dance category was a performance group from the Philippines. And let me tell you, they're just so good. And they have this intensity and love for the Korean culture. And it's already there, it's already present. All we need to do is just gain a little bit from it, just ride the wave.
Right, ride the wave, as you said earlier. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee, going back to this year's World Korean Association Conference, now I understand it's the second following the establishment of the Overseas Koreans Administration. How do you assess, Mr. Lee, Korea's efforts to reach out and to better support Koreans living beyond our borders?
Holding such a conference is definitely helping with Korea's effort. Through my experience at this conference with live opinions and advices of many Korean Association presidents, I became convinced that Korean American Association in each country could develop and grow together with the Korean government smoothly.
Right, with the support of the Korean government then. Mr. Choi, this is yet another impromptu question. What can you tell me about this year's conference? What was on the agenda? What were some of the issues that were addressed this time around?
Yeah, so the agenda was, well, there are similarities to the last year's conference. This year did have some new portions. For example, there was a section called 나의 조국, My Korea, where there were some presidents that were invited to come up on the stage and share some insights with regards to what they do within their own respective communities with some of the experts. For example, we had a historic expert there, and we actually had a music expert, also an expert in K-pop. So conversations like that sort of help you to understand how we can promote our Korean culture a bit more in our respective communities. And of course, there's portions of the conference, such as communicating with the government, which of course is quite important. And there's also a section where there were certain Korean associations that were chosen, and they were able to come present their hard work to the entire community of the presidents that were present. And things like that help us to promote some of the common problems that maybe all Korean associations face. How do we group the Koreans together? How do we gather our community together? How do we promote the Korean culture? What can we do to improve the Koreans' lives? These important topics, we all face, all Korean presidents face, and I think it would be very important for us to share those ideas, for the common goal. So overall, and just the conference, if you're the president, if you're there, it just really makes you feel appreciated. We know how difficult it is to open a conference like this, to bring presidents from all over the world. So I just felt really appreciated, and I was just very thankful for the experience.
Right, presidents of Korean associations from over 50 countries, I believe, and this particular conference ends today, that is Friday. From all the stories, perhaps, that you've heard at the conference thus far by your counterparts from different parts of the world, what story, perhaps, do you believe was quite remarkable?
Ooh, the thing that really struck me was, in the conference, there is a section where we are divided by continents and we're divided by countries, and the presidents from the respective country would come into a room and share their expertise. Within that conference room, I was met with other various Canadian, Korean presidents, and without maybe sharing the exact detail or exact location, there is an area in Canada where they really strived to support the upcoming Korean politicians. Now, for me personally, I thought we had to remain neutral in terms of politics, but the idea was a little bit different than mine. That Korean association tells me we're not taking a political side, we are just supporting a Korean. Nothing wrong with that. So that really struck a chord with me, because there was a similar request in my area. While we did our best to stay neutral and support this individual, we really took a step back. We weren't really in it with our hearts. So that is something that I'm going to take away with me back home. Another thing is, when you join a Korean association, a lot of the association have a membership fee. And it's not very expensive. For us, it's $5 to join the Korean association. But there was a Korean association out there in Canada where they removed the price entirely. It is free to join the Korean association. And that also struck a chord with me, because gaining $5 from an individual really, it's not going to help us financially. But it has been a barricade, a block in other Koreans joining the Korean association. So I thought to myself, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to remove the membership fee. Maybe that will help us to gather more Koreans into our association and build a stronger and bigger community.
Right. You're going to get rid of this membership fee as soon as you go back to Calgary then, from next year?
I've already texted my directors. This is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to see what you guys think. If you guys don't like it, of course, I am the captain of the ship, but without my crew, I'm not going anywhere.
Right, of course not.
Yes.
And speaking about politics, Mr. Choi, would you say there is a greater interest in Canadian politics among Korean Canadians in recent years?
Absolutely, in the recent years, there has been a greater interest in terms of politics. Of course, I think if you're in the early 20s and if you're studying and if you're in school, your life is so busy and so chaotic that you don't have space, you don't have room in your lives to maybe delve into politics or understand politics a bit better. As people grow a bit older, into their late 20s, early 30s, we begin to realize that our lives are directly impacted by the policies that are being made and the politicians that are risen. So there has been a growing interest in our community. At the same time, Koreans are a bit hesitant to delve into politics, in my personal opinion, especially in my local community. I'm really not sure of the reason why, but I think it's important for the younger generation to take more interest in politics, and I would very, very personally like to see a Korean politician. Although we already have politicians, Korean politicians in Canada, I would like to see politicians within my local community rise up and maybe stand up for us.
Right, maybe you could be the first one. Mr. Choi, what do you propose to ensure a stronger partnership between Korea and its related associations in different parts of the world?
I think, well, first of all, the conference that we've enjoyed for the past 3 days plays a huge role. And one of the presidents that I met actually used this word, wormhole. So, a wormhole, without getting into the technicalities, it is bringing two places that are very far into, it's a connecting bridge between these two very far places. I would say this conference is exactly that, right? We are bringing presidents from all over the world into one place. How hard is that? It's near impossible, but the government of Korea pulled it off, and we were able to meet presidents from all over the world. I met presidents from Malaysia, Singapore, Europe, China, Japan. You don't get a chance like that. So for me, a conference like this helps us to build partnership, not with Korea, but other parts of the world, and it's fantastic.
Right. And Mr. Lee, as a member of the Korean American community, are there any words that you would like to share to enhance bilateral ties?
We strongly ask for the Korean government's continued support to ensure stronger partnership with us.
Right.
Yeah.
The support of the government then to ensure
That's
greater
important.
partnership, for sure. All right, Mr. Lee, thank you so much for making time to join us live today. And
My pleasure.
Right. And Mr. Choi, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you very much.
Right, on that note, we mark an end to this final edition of Issues and Insiders, our daily panel session on various matters of global interest. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching.